Welcome to today's Sustainable Career webinar. We're excited to have a conversation today with two different environmental educators, Chelsea Hilty and Stacey, and we'll hear a little bit about both of the places that they work and how they got there. Thanks so much for joining us, Chelsea and Amber. Take it away.
Hi, I'm Chelsea, and like she said, I'm an environmental educator, and so is Amber. We're together right now doing this. If you've seen some of the other ones, probably all the other ones have been with one person, but me and Amber are roommates. So we figured we would tag team this one since we have the same kind of career and we're in the same house. Go ahead. Yes, I'm talking to you.
All right. Hi, I'm Amber. I'm also an environmental educator living with Chelsea. And we're going to tell you a little bit about what we do. We're really excited to be here with you today. And we hope that you learn a lot about our career.
So first we wanted to talk a little bit about the different types of environmental educators and environmental education. So there's really a wide variety and a lot that you might not think of. So I think most people, when you think of environmental education, would think more of like park rangers, and that could be people in city parks or in state parks or national parks. They go around, they give you tours, they make sure people are outside, are being safe, and that's awesome. Other ones that people might think of are different scientists, and they do studying outdoors and nature, like biologists who study life, or geologists who study rocks, botanists who study plants, things like that. And they like to share what they learn with people, and that's environmental education. But there are also a lot of other types of environmental education as well. So even people who might not work outside, like people who work in museums, or the people at the zoo, or the aquarium, or the aviary. Really, the way we're defining environmental education is anyone who is actively teaching people about the environment, trying to get people interested in what's going on outside. And so we also put artists on here, and I was thinking specifically people who do landscape paintings. Even they make people think more about what is the environment, what's out there. Maybe filmmakers who do like documentaries, or the people who shoot the video for National Geographic, and things like that. So environmental education really comes in a lot of different varieties. It's not just the park ranger walking through the park making sure that everybody's safe, you know? Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a very broad range of what you can do as an environmental educator.
So I thought it was also important to talk about the difference between nonprofits and businesses. Me and Amber both work at a nonprofit. And really the main difference is that nonprofits, their main goal is to provide a service to people. So the people who work at a nonprofit are still getting paid. Like, I think that's a misconception people have. Like, me and Amber still get paid to do our job, or else we wouldn't be able to do it full time. But nonprofits don't really charge people or charge that much for their services. So what it is it's based on a mission, and they provide these services either for free or really inexpensive. So they need support from donors and members, and foundations who will help give them money so that they can fulfill their mission. For a business, the main goal is to sell a product to make more money. So they just charge for their product, and they normally charge more so that they can have an extra amount of money. So I have an example on the next slide that makes this easier to understand. So the example I'm using is food. So everybody needs to eat, we know that. So an example of a nonprofit would be a food bank. Its main goal is to make sure people are fed. It's not charging people for food. People can come to the food bank, they get the food they need for free, and they don't have to pay for it. So the way a food bank runs, the way it pays the people who work there, the way it pays the bills, pays its rent, is because people are donating to the food bank. Food banks are getting support from big big foundations which give out money to nonprofits. And so that's how the food bank works. It just wants people to be fed. The people who work at the food bank just want to make sure that nobody goes hungry. And that's kind of different with a restaurant. Restaurants' main goal is to make sure people are fed too, but they want people to eat their food, to buy their food. So they charge for food and they charge for the services. So most of the time when you go to a restaurant, it's going to cost more than if you made the food yourself, because not only are you charging for the food, they're charging for rent, they're charging to pay their waitresses, they're charging for all of that stuff. So restaurants need to make more money so that they can get a profit, whereas nonprofits' main goal is to provide a service for somebody so that everybody has the different services that they need, like food, shelter, nice parks to play in, clean air, everything like that. So that's the difference between a food bank and a nonprofit. So I think now Amber is going to talk about her job, and then when she's done, I'll talk about mine. So if you have any questions for Amber specifically, you can wait for the end or you can fill them out in the chat while she's talking.
Cool. Let me just repeat that. All right. So Chelsea, Chelsea mentioned that we both work for nonprofit organizations, and the one that I work for is the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. And the nonprofit organizations are really driven by their mission. And the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy's mission is it's to improve the lives of the people in Pittsburgh by restoring the park systems to excellent condition and to keep the park system healthy. And we partner with the city to do this. And we're doing a number of projects. We do improvement projects, we do restoration projects, and we do education programs. So we are improving the park systems. We are restoring things that were already there. And we're also educating people about the park and what's in the park and how to take care of the park. And I have kind of just a little question to gauge what you might know about Pittsburgh's parks. I wanted to know how many parks you think Pittsburgh has. And so tell me, I'm going to give you a number and show me if you think that the number of parks in Pittsburgh is higher with a thumbs up or lower with a thumbs down. What? Just thumbs down with your hand. So do you think Pittsburgh has higher or lower than 10 parks? See a couple higher, I think one lower. All right. Do you think it has higher or lower than 50 parks? Ooh, a lot of people went down. Okay. All right. What about 100 parks? Higher or lower than 100 parks? A lot of people seem to think lower. All right. What about 150? All right. So Pittsburgh has 165 parks. Yeah, so 165 parks, and the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy is active in 22 of them. So we are helping to assist the city in taking care of 22 parks, and that's rising. And the parks come in different forms. So the parks can be really big, and parks can also be really small. When we're talking about a park can be as big as a national or a state park. It could be as small as a little community park. It can be a really wooded area with lots of trails, but it can also have man-made structures like a playground or fountains. A lot of times with the kids that I work with, they take field trips out to the park, and when they get there, the park that I work at has just a lot of wood area, and they don't see a playground. And for a lot of kids, park and playground is kind of the same thing in their minds at first. And so one of the things that I do is teach kids that a playground can be in a park, but a playground doesn't have, like, a park can have other things other than a playground. And parks are really important for the health of people and the health of the environment. So parks are healthy for the environment because they provide places for animals and plants to live. They're also really good when it comes to improving air quality, water quality. They can help the impact of flooding. So there's a lot of environmental benefits to having parks. And then there's also physical health benefits, because parks are a place where people can run around, they can play, they can get active, and their bodies can remain healthy. And there's also mental health benefits. There are places where people can de-stress. It helps with attention span. It's places where you can play and where you can meet with other people for social gatherings. So there's a lot of important benefits to having parks. And part of the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy's mission is that we believe that healthy parks equal healthy people. So if we have parks that are well maintained and they're healthy, then the people of Pittsburgh will also be healthier, which is the third sustainability development goal of good health and well-being. So we're really working to make sure that the people of Pittsburgh are healthier by having a healthier environment and places to go for these benefits. So I work at the Frick Environmental Center. Frick Park is one of the 5 regional parks in Pittsburgh. It's one of our bigger ones. And this is the building that I work at, called the Frick Environmental Center. I am a naturalist educator, which is just another term for an environmental educator. I'm teaching people about local nature in the parks. I connect them to the parks, and I encourage them to really care about the parks that we have, and hope to encourage them to come back to the parks later and maybe volunteer or advocate for the parks, to really get the community involved in loving the space that we have and wanting to take care of it. So yeah, this is the building that I work at. And my work is really important because it's crucial in getting people outside and experiencing the benefits that I kind of just went over a minute ago. So some of the things that I do is I do school field trips. I work primarily with younger students. My age range is about probably like 3 years old up to about 4th grade. So I'm the coordinator of 2 of our programs, Habitat Explorers and Park Stewards. We're teaching 1st graders about habitats. We're doing nature journaling with 4th graders. I also do nature school, where we go to a classroom and we're introducing nature to younger students in preschool. And I do a lot of interaction with kids in getting them outside, teaching them about what is in the park near them, teaching them how to explore, trying to get them, my main job is really to get them comfortable with the space and to connect with it and become interested in it, so that later on, when they see some of my coworkers who work with our middle schoolers, high schoolers, and adults, they'll become more active as they get older. So I also do some of our summer camps, which is what we normally would be doing right about now, is starting our orientation. I am involved with our kinder camp with our younger kids, and then I coordinate our animal adventures camp and have to have a habitat camp. And this is our summer programs to get kids outside during the summer and interacting with the park and learning about local nature. And then I also do our public programs. So I develop story hikes where I read to a group of families, take them outside with the connection to our stories, do family nature hikes, just to get people outside and interacting with the environment. And then we also do community festivals. This is a picture from our Earth Day festival in 2018. We have Bump in the Night, which is a night program to get families comfortable with being out in the park at night. And there's been other ones. World Migratory Bird Day was another one to get people out and introduced to birding. We bring out people who do bird banding. And so we do a lot of different programs. And I want to talk a little bit about how I got here, which was really kind of an accident. My main passion is for working with kids and with younger people. It was less in the environmental realm. So I started off in high school taking child development courses and a preschool lab. And after high school, I was doing a lot of after school programs, like after school care and summer camp jobs. And my original thought was that I was going to be a teacher. And things kind of didn't work out quite the way that I had planned. I didn't really like where I went to school at first. I ended up transferring and came here into Pittsburgh. And my degree is very different than the field that I'm in. I don't have a background in environmental studies. I was an English literature major and a psychology major. So this is not the route that I thought that I was going to take, which sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have a plan and life kind of takes you in a weird direction. And the direction that it took me was that I met Chelsea, my roommate, in early college, and we were working at the same cafe together. And I had mentioned to her that I wanted to work with kids, and I hadn't done anything since moving to Pittsburgh with kids. And she just kind of offhandedly said that I should come and volunteer at the Environmental Center for just as a way to get active in the community. And I didn't think it would lead to where I am now. And I was like, I don't know anything about the environment. I don't know anything about environmental education. And it really came down to, do you like kids? Do you like being outside? Come, like they'll welcome you there and you'll be able to figure it out. And so I was there and I volunteered for a while, and then I became a seasonal educator and slowly started to build experience, and they helped to train me and teach me a lot of things about local nature and what I was seeing outside. And I learned a lot of the skills kind of on the job. And then eventually I became full-time staff a few years ago. So it was really like an accident that I ended up here, a really happy accident. So sometimes I like bringing that out just because you don't always end up where you think you're gonna end up, and that's okay. Some challenges about where I'm at, challenges of environmental education is that you're working with a lot of different people. And so people are coming with their own discomforts and fear about nature. And I love the picture that's on the slide because it's from one of our school programs where we brought in stream creatures to the kids, and they're supposed to draw what they see in their stream cup. And when I looked over this little girl's shoulder, it was just a picture of her saying growth. And I thought it was the funniest thing. Because it's okay. It's okay that if you don't like something or if you think it's kind of weird, she was still engaging with it and trying to learn from it, but it was okay to have those feelings of like, yuck. So I loved that she expressed that in this picture. So part of my job is being really flexible with people's feelings and trying to get them comfortable with what we are seeing. People have a lot of fears. Some people are afraid of bees. Some people really don't like snakes. I've had kids come into the woods and they're terrified that the trees are just going to fall down all around them. And you have to really work in creating these connections with people to make them feel safe and comfortable. And sometimes it's interacting with them in a way that you didn't originally plan. Part of the challenge too is like the unpredictability of nature as well. You can go into your programs with a certain idea and then have to change really quickly on a dime because of maybe a discomfort or a fear, or maybe it started raining, maybe a tree fell on the trail and you're not able to go on that trail anymore, but you didn't know until 10 minutes before your program. So you have to be really flexible to be an environmental educator. There's also some difficulties with park users at times, not following park rules that are set. Our biggest issue is with dog walkers. So parks are for everyone. You're able to run, walk, ride your bike, walk your dog, but there are some rules set in place for the safety of both the park user and other park users. And sometimes they're not following the directions that are set, and that can cause safety issues or distractions too when you're doing programs. And then another challenge is communicating with schools and partners. Communication is hard in general, and a really good skill to have when you're doing work in general is being able to communicate. And there's always a lot of like little miscommunications, like someone thought they scheduled the bus for the field trip and they didn't realize until that day that the bus wasn't scheduled. Trying to get in contact with a certain teacher, but not getting emails back. So communication is always like a difficulty, and anytime that you're working with other people, communication is just always a challenge. And then finally, I wanted to end with what I loved about my job, working in the environmental education field. I love working with kids. That's where my passion is. I love hanging out with kids all day. I like playing around outside. I'm very goofy in general. I love interacting with really cool things in nature. One of the pictures on here is a local person, Amy Bianco, is really big into spiders. And fun fact, I used to be really afraid of spiders until I met Amy Bianco, and now I can touch tarantulas, so that's really cool. So I love experiencing new things, finding really awesome nature discoveries, and I love getting dirty. The last picture is one of our things in summer camp is we start a dirt club, and sometimes the kids are really unsure about getting dirty, and we try to do like mud face painting. And when they are feeling a little unsure, I try to show them that it's okay and tell them to just kind of have at it with me. So usually at the end of the day, I'm covered in mud. I've got like mud whiskers on. I've got like mud glasses underneath my real glasses. And I have a lot of fun being imaginative, being able to kind of be creative in creating programming and seeing it play out with the kids. And I'm gonna turn it over to Chelsea now, because she does a lot of the same things that I do, but also her job is a bit different as well. So I'm gonna turn it over to Chelsea.
Hey, so I also do environmental education, but I work somewhere different. I work at GASP, which is the Group Against Smog and Pollution. And so we work to improve the air quality of southwestern Pennsylvania. So I've highlighted it on there. I think it's really interesting that there are people here that are not from southwestern Pennsylvania. I didn't expect that. Can you give me a thumbs up if you are from southwestern Pennsylvania? If you are from here, you give me a thumbs up, or if you're currently living here. Okay, seems like everybody that I can see. So yeah, what GASP does is work to improve the air quality of southwestern Pennsylvania. So you might not know this, but we actually have some of the worst air quality in the entire country. So I always say out of everybody who's walking around in America, living their lives and breathing, we're breathing in some of the dirtiest air that there is. Do you want to go to the next one? So this is important because people and nature both need clean air to stay healthy. So dirty air is linked to a lot of health effects. So maybe you might know somebody with asthma. Asthma can become worse if you breathe in dirty air. So you can cough more, sneeze more, it'll burn your lungs and your throat and your nose. And so it's really important that people can breathe in clean air. It also affects nature in a variety of ways. So animals are obviously breathing the same way we do, so they need clean air. And plants, even though they don't breathe like us, they still exchange different gases, and so they need clean air too. Dirty air can hurt plants, and dirty air can also affect soil and water quality, because what happens when these things are in the air, all these different chemicals and particles and all of this pollution in the air, when it rains, it collects in the rain and gets in the water, it goes onto the ground and collects into the soil, and so it's really important that we try to clean up our air quality. Okay, go ahead. So the way GASP does this is 3 main ways. We do a lot of advocacy work, and that means we're really fighting to make strong rules. We want the laws and the rules that govern air pollution to be really strict so that less pollution can come out in the first place. Another way we do this is to make sure that factories pollute less. So we have people on our staff, and their whole job is to check and make sure that air quality permits that tell a facility or a factory how much they're allowed to pollute are all strong and accurate, and to make sure that companies aren't polluting over their limits. And then the other way that we do this is that we teach people about air pollution and about how it affects your health and how it affects the environment, because it's really important for people to know about it, or else they're not going to care about it. You can't work to solve a problem you don't know about. You can't protect your health if you don't even know that it's at risk. So education is a key part, and that's what I do. And so I think for our sustainable development goals, the ones that I thought most resonated with GASP is number 3, which is health and well-being, because a part of what we do is just really trying to make sure that the air quality is improved so that people can live healthier lives. And then also I picked number 13, which is climate change, because a lot of climate change is driven by air pollution and different chemicals released. And so if we can work to improve air quality, get less of these chemicals in the air, then climate change will be slowed down some. So those are the 2 of those that I picked. Go ahead, Amber. So my job at GASP, I'm the education and events coordinator, which means that I coordinate the education and the events. So we're a nonprofit the same way Amber's organization is, but we are a lot smaller. So my whole organization, everybody at GASP, there's only 7 people that work there, and only 5 of them are full-time. So I have less people at my whole entire organization than Amber has just in her education department. And so for us, like with Amber, she works with a team of people, and they plan things together and they do their education together. But for me, it's just me. I'm the only one that does education. So I have to do a lot of the similar things as Amber, as like coordinating with teachers and things like that. But I also have to work more independently a lot of times. And that's not like better or worse, because I think by myself, it's nice because I don't have to worry about what anybody else thinks, but it's also can make it harder because if I run out of ideas, then I have no one to really talk to about them. So it's my job essentially to coordinate all of the events, all of the programs that we do, and to educate the community. Go ahead. So how did I start working at GASP? Here's actually a picture I found of me and Amber at my hometown. This is like a 10-year-old picture. And you can see that I basically grew up in the middle of the woods. And so I've just always been really into nature. I like hiking, swimming, kayaking, all of that stuff. Like that's been my major thing that I love. And so whenever I went to college, I went for environmental studies, and I started out at the environmental center, same way Amber did. I had an internship there. And that kind of really got me into environmental education, because before then I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my environmental studies degree. You can do so much with a degree like that. But I really ended up liking education a lot. And then after I graduated, I worked at a bunch of different environmental nonprofits around the city, trying out a bunch of different things. And then finally, I had a fellowship with the Student Conservation Association. And I would say if you're interested in sustainability or the environment, they even have jobs for high school students. So that's something worth checking out. So I had a Student Conservation Association fellowship at Treat Pittsburgh, and that's an organization that works to increase the amount of trees in the city. And my job there was to educate people about the relationship that trees have with air quality. So the more trees we have, the better the air quality would be in the city. And so after my fellowship was over, there was a job opening at GASP, and it was all about educating people about air quality, which is what I had been doing my entire fellowship. So it just made sense. It was like an easy transition into my work at GASP. Good. So here's just a little bit more about what we do. I pretty much teach every age group. So we have youth programs, school programs, after school programs, summer camps, and they're a lot of fun, but the main challenge I would say with these is to make air quality interesting, because I don't think, like as far as environmental education goes, air quality is kind of a hard topic, because it's not hard to get people interested in animals. It's not hard to get people interested in cool bugs that are crawling around, but like, how do you teach somebody about air quality? It's something that you can't see, that you don't think about. And so I would say the biggest challenge for me is trying to make activities that kids will find fun, but still teaches about air quality. So that's the hardest part with the youth programs for sure. Go ahead. We also do adult programs. We do cool hikes, like history hikes, and we do bioindicator hikes where we go around and we look for different plants that'll tell you about air quality, so that you can kind of know what's going on with the air quality based on the plants that we find. We do different workshops and classes like Air Quality 101s. We try to teach people how to become more involved, like what they can do to help improve air quality. Just a variety of different things like that. Go ahead. And then we do a lot of community events too. That's you can see my giant nose. That's from actually, you can barely tell, but like if you look right where Smokey the Bear's nose is, you can see a barrel right there, and that's the barrel painting that Amber showed you from Earth Day. I was like right next to that on that same Earth Day, which is funny. But I have like a giant pickable nose that I take around with me, because we say the nose knows, because normally if there's air pollution, you can kind of smell it before you can see anything. And a lot of different pollutants will get stuck in your nose hairs, and then when you sneeze, they'll come out in your boogers. And so the thought of the nose is that there's questions, and you have to reach up inside the nose and pick a booger out, and then it'll have the answer to the question. And so we try to make everything fun. And then we also sometimes do like clean air rallies where we have people show up downtown and kind of demand that our representatives do something to help clean up the air. So there's a lot of different community events types things. Go ahead. So what I like the most about my job is that every day is very different for me. Not since we've been stuck inside, every day is exactly the same for me now. But before this, every day was really different because one day I will go to a school program and I'll play a dodgeball game about particle pollution and show kids inflatable pig lungs. And then the next day I'm doing a hike with a group of senior citizens. So I really like that about my job, that I really get to do a lot of different things. But there are some challenges. The first one is what I already said before, is that I'm the only education staff. And like I said, it can be hard if I can't think of ideas. I don't really have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of. But also it's just hard planning wise, because if there's two things going on at once, then it can be hard for me to try to find someone to go to one, because I can only be at one at once, obviously. And so that can be tricky for me to try to keep on top of so many different events at one time. Another challenge that I have is that a lot of people, when they think of Pittsburgh in the past, they think of how it was like really smoky and dirty, and we all have the stories of like people had to change their shirt in the middle of the day because it was so dirty, or they had to have the lights on during the day because it was so black that you couldn't see. And so a lot of people think Pittsburgh used to be so bad, and now you go outside and the sky's blue, and so the air must be good. And so they don't really want to do anything to improve the air quality because they think it's better, or they don't really care about trying to protect their health because they think that the air quality is good now, when in reality it is like still some of the worst air quality in the country. So that can be a really big challenge for me. And then the other thing is funding. Like I said when I was talking about nonprofits, we don't really charge anything for our programs. We have to figure out how to get that funding from other places. And so a lot of what I spend time doing is trying to figure out what programs will help us bring in money too. Okay, go ahead. So I just had a couple of interesting things at the end that we've done. One is open streets. Can you like give me a thumbs up if you've ever been to open streets or heard of open streets? No? So open streets is this really cool thing that happens in a lot of cities across the country, and Pittsburgh has usually 3 or 4 every year. And what they do is during the summer, they close off the entire street to cars. And so it's really fun because you can ride your bike down the middle of the street. You can walk down the middle of the street. People roller skate and skateboard, and along the route that they have blocked off, people set up really big games and activities. And so I've seen all kinds of crazy things. Like sometimes people will teach you how to sword fight at an intersection, and sometimes there's yoga at an intersection. So it's a lot of fun, and GASP normally participates in these, and it's like really fun because we get to set up really big games, like the giant cloud hopscotch you can see. And then the person down below, he's pointing to an air quality monitor. So this was a cool thing we got to do, where people would take air quality monitors and ride their bikes along the route to see how clean the air was, and then do the route again the next weekend whenever there were cars on there, and we could see the difference between how much air pollution there was with or without the cars. And so that was really interesting to do. Go ahead. And another cool thing that we did was an air quality art exhibit. So this on the left where it says symptoms, that was our original first giant nose that people could pick. But what we did was we had an air quality art exhibit up for an entire month. And so we had lots of information about how air quality affects the different organs, which is what you can see there, about different sources. We had these windows that had sources of air pollution, and then they had questions with a little shutter. When you open the shutter, it would tell you the answer. And then we had a station about environmental justice, because lots of times air pollution affects people of color and people of lower economic status more than other people. And we also had like a letter writing station so that people could contact their representatives and let them know that clean air was important to them. So that was up for a month, and that was something really fun and interesting that we got to make. Go ahead. And then this is the last one. This was part of our art exhibit. This is a woman named Shelby, and she came one time and she did a project for us where she made these meringues. So if you don't know what meringue is, it's kind of like a candy. Basically, it's just egg whites and sugars, and you just mix and mix and mix, and air bubbles will mix in and it'll make it really fluffy, and then they get hard when you bake them, so they're kind of like these little candies. And what she did was she made some in her house, but then she also went to a bus stop and mixed it up a lot at the bus stop so that the air that got mixed into the candy was dirty bus stop air. And she went to a factory and stood outside the fence and mixed some up outside a factory so that the air that got mixed in was like dirty factory air. And then she had people taste test them. And people were really scared. They were like, is it okay to eat this? It has, like, you can see in the picture, she said next to McConway and Torley Steel Foundry, it had these kind of pollutants in it. And so people were scared to eat them. And she was just like, well, if you live near McConway and Torley, you're breathing that stuff in all the time. So why are you scared to eat these things, but you're perfectly fine to breathe them in? And so that was just something really interesting and gross. And I thought they tasted different. I tried a blind taste test. I thought they were nasty. But anyway, I think that's pretty much all of our slides. So maybe questions?
Oh my gosh, thank you both. What a shocking example and story to end on, Chelsea. That's so cool and crazy and gross. All right, folks, feel free to type questions into the chat window. I think one of our questions that's already there has already been answered. How did you get into this field of work? So while we see if folks want to submit any other questions while we have about 10 minutes left, I'm curious if besides your after-school programs or your summer camps, what are some ways that young people can get involved? Maybe when things are in normal mode, not in coronavirus mode, or now? Like, is there a minimum age or opportunity for folks to volunteer? Like you did, Amber, at the Parks Conservancy, or I know, Chelsea, you mentioned organizing rallies. Can young folks get involved, and how can they learn about some of those opportunities to get involved as a volunteer or an advocate with your work?
So for the Parks Conservancy, some of the things that we have, so there are environmental eco stewards. That is a program that's for, I'm not sure what the age range is for that, but I know there are adults that do it, but we also have junior counselors. So high schoolers can come and be junior counselors with us and help out with some of our camps. And then you can also, we have a young naturalist program, which is a paid internship for high school students in the summer. And they do a lot of really cool projects and on-the-job training. And it's just like a really fun way to spend your summer and get out in the parks and learn about the field. Chelsea?
You're gonna mute? Yeah. I would say for us, there's not really an age limit per se, but there's less, like, we don't have a standard thing for people to do. Normally, if younger people are interested, they could be like a summer intern for me, and they'll help me go to events and help me plan educational things that are happening. We also, I think, recently have talked about having like guest social media people. So if you're like interested in social media, maybe writing like a blog post for us or helping with Instagram for a little while, something like that. And then we just have events as we have events. Like sometimes we'll do volunteer events, and then you could just volunteer with us. we don't really have any like set in stone programs like the Parks Conservancy does.
How do folks learn about volunteer opportunities at events, Chelsea, on GASP website or social media?
Yeah, we'll put it on our events page and in social media. And we send out a weekly email alert. So if anybody is super interested in air quality, you could sign up for that too.
Thanks to both of you for all those opportunities. I'm also wondering, what are some of the places that each of you go to learn more about your field? What are some of the organizations or people you follow on Twitter, or the best authors you've read lately, places folks could go to learn more?
So places that I go, there's NAAE, which is the North American Environmental Education Association. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. NAAE, and then there's PAEE as well, which is the Pennsylvania version of it. They have really good resources. I also look at NACE, which is more with young children. And yeah, I think those are kind of like the bigger ones for me.
I think the same for the environmental associations. Those are cool. I follow the Student Conservation Association just because I was a part of that, and also they do so much cool stuff. And if you are interested in that at all, they do it throughout the entire country, and sometimes even in other countries, which is super cool because you could literally get, maybe once you're in college, you can get an internship in Wyoming and just go to Wyoming and do something there and they'll pay you. It's really cool. Another thing that I do is that I'm the community partner for the GirlGov. Women and Girls Foundation has a program for high school girls that focuses on getting them into politics, and one of their committees is the Health and Environment Committee, and I'm the community partner for that committee. And this week, actually, our committee is doing a social media takeover on the GirlGov Instagram, and so they're doing a lot of interesting stuff on their Instagram this week, specifically, if you're interested in that. And I think maybe a cool book to read or a cool person to read is Michael Pollan, The Omnivore's Dilemma. I read that a long time ago, and I think about it every other day still. So I would check that out.
All right.
Joseph Cornell is another one too.
Oh, awesome, thanks. We are almost out of time. We have about 3 minutes left, and I see another question popped up in the chat window, but I think you both talked about that in your slides as well. I'm quickly interested to know from Chelsea if that was a real lung on your slide.
Yeah, it's pig lung. We have inflatable pig lungs that we take around, which I know is really gross, and kids around the city have started recognizing me and calling me the pig lung lady, which is not cool. But yeah, we have inflatable pig lungs that we take around, and we talk about the respiratory system, and you can touch them. They're gross. They're actually right next to me because they were in my car and I didn't want to leave them out in the heat, and I can't take them back to our office. So they're sitting in our living room right now.
Can you reuse that?
Oh yeah, I've had the one pair for 3 years. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have four pair of pig lungs.
That's fascinating. Your job is fascinating. I'm wondering, maybe as a last question, maybe a combined question. Chelsea, you especially touched a little bit on how there are some other folks that work in your office and what their jobs are like, that they're helping to monitor major polluters and try to get them to stop. what are some of the other jobs like in your organizations? And also, is this your dream job for each of you? And if not, what is your dream job? As like closing words.
So for us, we have 5 full-time people. There's me, there's the executive director. She's like the boss. She basically delegates everything and helps make sure that we're all doing the right thing, saying the right thing. She manages all of our money, things like that. We have an outreach like a communications person. She does our social media, and then if we are like writing letters to the press or something like that, she manages our website and our blogs. And then we have 2 full-time lawyers on staff, and they're the ones, they review all of the permits, all the air quality permits in southwestern Pennsylvania. They always are looking at them, making sure that they're up to date, making sure that they're all right, making sure that companies aren't polluting over the limit that they're allowed, making sure money's spent the right way. And then we have an office manager who just helps manage our office and our members and things like that. And we have a program manager who kind of does specific project manager who does specific projects as they come up. And I mean, I don't know if this is my dream job, but I wouldn't say that it's not my dream job. Like, I get to work when I want to a lot of times. Our office is very lenient, so it's like if you work 40 hours a week, cool. If those 40 hours are from like midnight to 6 a.m., like as long as nobody needs to talk to you, it's whatever. And I get to go out, I get to make my own programs. I get to be outside with kids. When I get sick of kids, I just schedule more adult programs. When I get sick of adults, I just schedule more kids programs. So I have no complaints.
So the Parks Conservancy is bigger than Chelsea's. We have a lot of we have a couple different departments. So there's the education department where I work in, and we all have different kind of niches and places that we fall into. But there's also our horticulture and forestry department, and these are the people that actually like go out in the park and maintain the park. So they're kind of zone gardeners, ecology specialists, the people that are actually out working with the plants and the environment and trying to like get rid of invasive species of plants and things like that. We have people that work more in like the finance department and are making sure that our we have funding and we have the money that goes to where it needs to go. We have grant writers who help us to get money and write up the grants. We have community outreach and a community engagement people who are going out into communities, talking with them, partnering more with like other organizations, and trying to make sure that it's more of like a team effort and that we know in the communities where the parks are what is needed. And then we also have like our office coordinator who kind of makes sure everything's where it needs to be in the office. As far as dream job, I don't know either. I would say I don't know what else I would be doing though. I mean, my dream job really is just being out with kids and having conversations and goofing around, and that's what I get to do in my job. So if it's not, it's pretty darn close, but it's not what I thought I would be doing. But I really enjoy it.
Thanks, Amber. That's a good note to end on. And we thank both of you so much for your time volunteering to do this today. We're past our end time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We did get one last minute question that we don't have time for that was about any advice you've learned from your careers from college to getting a job. So if folks want to reach out and ask those questions, you have both of their contact info on the screen right now, and we'll also make sure to share those in the resources associated with the recording and the post email. So thank you all, especially to Amber and Chelsea, and hope you all have a great rest of your day and week. Bye.